this is disconcerting, seeing as a lot of you are doing video production. I would figure this would have been covered. Shit. Okay, story is the overarching narrative of a game. Plot is what your character does in that game. So the plot is the actual mechanics of the game itself in terms of its story. Story is, if you like, to use Final Fantasy, story is what Morgan explained to us in terms of the background, the setting, the environment, etc. Plot is what you do to progress through the game. The plot is the activity that you go through. Narrative is a combination of those two elements. So when we're talking about narrative, we are considering both the storyline and the plot, as in what actually happens during the storyline itself. So, there have always been reasons why narrative and gameplay are confused together. What I'm going to argue here, and after we have a break in a minute, is that narrative and ludology, the gameplay itself, actually can't be separated out from one another, and to pull them apart is to ignore the point that they're co-constructions of the game. A game itself is a construction of these two elements. So, for Jesper Jewel, the player can tell a story of a game session. Every time we play, a story develops, even if you're playing something that has no discernible story. I can relate to you, say, something from, it's really shit that has no storyline, Candy Crush. You know, I can give you a story of my Candy Crush session about how I was doing amazing, and then some shit came along and killed me and whatever. Video game and narrative share structural issues, but games are games, definitely not stories. And the reason for this is really interactivity. One of the problems with adopting a narratology approach is that you have to limit the purpose of interactivity within your play itself. So Janet Murray basically hammers a game is interactive. Now, I picked Outer Worlds. Is anyone familiar with Outer Worlds? Okay, so RPG came out 2019. It's pretty cool. It now has a sequel, I think, which I've not really caught up with. The huge, sprawling environment to play in, lots of different planets, lots of different environments and so on, discernible storyline, etc., etc. None of that is important. I bought Outer Worlds when it came out, played it for about 5-6 hours, and I've never picked it up since. It's boring as shit. It's really dull. The gameplay element of it means that I was not interested in the story at all. I couldn't care less about what this guy I'm supposed to be controlling, what his problem was doing, because it was so dull. It's just like you're bouncing around, shooting this, shooting that. Do I care? What the hell do I care? Nothing got me invested in it, not because the story wasn't there, because actually I was bored senseless within an hour. As I kept on playing, thinking, something's going to happen. Something good will happen here. No, it didn't happen. So, okay, play a little longer. Something exciting is bound to happen in this game, which has been really well reviewed. No, nothing happened of any interest whatsoever. And I was like, I couldn't care less. Eject, put it back on the shelf, it's still sitting there. I've been meaning to take it down to CEX and just haven't been asked. So, it's a good indication of how interaction and narrative are on separate planes. Narrative is obviously really well developed in this game. Interactive part of it is really poorly developed in this game, which affects how the narrative is actually received by the player. You know, and I don't know, so a lot of people seem to really like this. I'm like, you like being bored? Do you like not being challenged in any way, shape or form? Do you like, having no progression at all? This is bizarre. What are you getting into this? Janet Murray says games are symbolic dramas. So, Within that, what she's referring to is that the drama unfolds through our symbolic interactions with elements of the game, non-playables, environment, and so on. We interpret the symbolic environment in which we're in, and this powers the narrative forward. Okay, let's have 5 minutes, and then let's power through the rest of this.